Hello, my name is Ariel Moore, and this is our Sacred Monument Project. The goal of this project was to create a space where people can practice their religions and gain insight of the history of the site of the building. Before we started designing, we had to accumulate research and inspiration pertaining to the various elements of our project. For the monument portion, I did research on the Gateway Arc in St. Louis, Missouri, and the Northeast Commemorative Gate in India. These helped me gain insight on how monuments were constructed and their purposes. Although these were the two I had researched, I was mostly inspired by another memorial site, the Sheehan Memorial Park, specifically the commemorative plaques and spaces dedicated to the deceased. But some aspects I did take from my research buildings were linked spaces, and specifically from inside the Gateway Monument, and linear organization of the bamboo sticks from the Northeast Commemorative Gate. We also had to research sacred spaces. My group came across a church in Norway called Sola Church. I used Sola's dominant sanctuary form and networking circulation in my design, but fitted to the context of my space. The site of our space is located on the Wyatt Chapel Community Cemetery in Waller County, Texas. An inspirational figure was also necessary in our research, as our site is located on a formerly owned plantation, which now serves as a burial ground for the slaves that used to occupy it. Due to our site having significant history in Black culture, it was necessary for our building to be influenced by an African American figure or event. My group during the project chose Barack Obama, a very important African American in American history. Barack Obama became the first African American to become the president of the United States. He made great movements in the Black community and became a role model to other African Americans. We took some of his qualitative and quantitative characteristics and turned them into architectural principles and elements. Some of these characteristics include the words optimistic, which means to be hopeful for the future, inspirational, which means to be inspiring unto others, benevolent, which means to be kind, eloquent, which means to speak well and hold yourself to higher standards, gallant, which means to be brave, outspoken, established, which is the act to put things in motion, and jocular, which is to have a good sense of humor. All of these qualities were characteristics that me and my group saw in Barack Obama. And all of these characteristics were turned into elements and principles of design. To formally present my project, this is Haven on the Hill, a sacred space on the Prairie View campus. The concept behind my design was freedom. When we come together, we build our path to freedom. My dominant form language is linked elements, which includes planes, spaces, forms, walls, and even floors. These are the spaces that make up my building: a lobby for congregating, bathrooms, private sacred spaces for praying and more intimate group gatherings, a sanctuary for worship and sermons, and a memorial honoring the deceased slaves. The picture on the left is the floor plan that I made of my building. These are specific details on my building, such as architectural elements, principles, and aspects that I wanted to discuss. To start, the approach to my building is oblique, as the guests would walk a straight path, crossing over water to make a right or left to enter. This crossing of water serves as a threshold into the building. 8 pillars are used as a gateway, guiding guests inside. The 8 pillars are symbolic of the first generation of PV students, which only consisted of 8 African American men. The shape of the building is also symbolic of broken chains, with the use of linking spaces. Simple circles and other curvilinear shapes make up the form. These are my parties that I made to describe the previously mentioned design elements and more, such as the orientation of my building, which faces the vegetation for better views, the transformation in height of each section of my building, and the use of direct natural light. I wanted to talk more about the symbolism of my water, as I feel it plays an integral part in the circulation of paths and ambience of the entire space. Symbolic of the Negro spiritual hymn, Wade in the Water, it describes how the water was a safe haven for slaves and how they used it to mask their trails of escape. Hence why you see the path that is on the slide crossing over the water. This is to emulate the feeling of walking through water or walking across the water, similar to what the slaves had to do to reach their safe haven. Water also embodies majority of the building, which visually and metaphorically represents a form of a sacred barrier that encloses the sacred space. On the left are pictures of the spaces inside my building. This is the lobby, the memorial, and the sanctuary. The memorial is nestled inside the lobby, but there is no rooftop covering the memorial. The dimensions of my building consist of 3 different parts. My building is split into 3 different sections, 2 of those sections being conjoined into one space, which is the lobby. The height of the first section of my building is 12 feet tall. The second portion of my building is 18 feet tall. And the third portion, which is the sanctuary, is 28 feet tall, only because there's a second level for extra seating. On the ends of the space, there are private spaces and bathrooms. Those are also 12 feet tall because I wanted the bathroom and private sacred spaces to have lower ceilings. On this slide shows the bathroom and the private sacred space. The light on my property consists majority of natural lighting. I really wanted the idea of the sun engulfing the building in light because I feel that gives the energy of holiness and sanctity. So I wanted to use a lot of natural light and not as much artificial light. The natural light is direct as it shines right through the window panes. And the only artificial lighting I do have are lights along the walls. And in the center of the sanctuary, there is a chandelier hanging from a skylight. My inspiration for the glass colored panes came from my precedent research from the Sola Church. Inside their sanctuary, they have glass colored panes along the walls where light pours through, casting a colored hue on the pews. Last but not least, I wanted to discuss the materials of my building, which I feel are also very important to the symbolism of my project. The materials that I used was Corten steel and polished white stone. As you can see, Corten steel starts at the beginning towards the entrance of the building, but fades off into the white stone at the back of the building. This was intentional because I wanted the Corten steel to represent the metal that you see on chains. Chains means bondage. So I wanted to fade in the metal into a polished stone to show that we are no longer captive. The white stone is also encasing the sanctuary portion of the building. And the reason why I chose white stone over normal stone is because in the Bible, white means purity, holiness, glory, and majesty. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.